Hello everyone. Oh. Hello to whoever just texted me. It is Becky Locke and Sophie Isaacs. It's our little group, which is funny because, nice segue, this fills me with a little bit of dread, I will be honest. But recently I did a reaction to an old Les Mis Eponine bootleg. I always feel better about doing reactions or just watching in general my own performances from a long time ago, because I feel like I have distance in not just time, I have distance as a human, like the person that I'm watching in 2013, which is when that bootleg of Les Mis was filmed. I was 20 and now I'm 28 next month. So that feels like a whole few versions of me ago. I've changed a lot since then, so it literally feels like watching a completely different person. This is only from 2018, so I've only got 2 years worth of distance from this, but even so, I feel better about watching this than I do, say, Fontaine, for instance. I've already seen this as well. I found this not that long ago and decided to give it a watch. So I have seen this bootleg from Heather's. I have specifically picked the song I Say No because I have a very strong connection to that song. It was written whilst I was in the show, so it was kind of written with me in mind. The composer and the writer knew that I would be the one singing this, which is a very, very cool thing to have happen as an actress. So I will always feel more connection to this song than any other. Before I even start watching this, I will preface this reaction video with a little story. I Say No was put into Heather's in the 7th week of its 8-week run at the Other Palace. So I was sent the demo of the song on Saturday the 21st of July. We rehearsed it on Thursday the 26th of July, and then it went into the show on Friday the 27th of July. And I was just in my own head going over these lyrics, because that was the thing I was worried about the most, that I was gonna forget the lyrics. And I also knew that there was just a lot of pressure that I was putting on myself, because the audiences that used to come and watch Heather's knew the show back to front. They knew every song, every lyric, every line, every move that we made. The audiences from Heather's would have known that this was a new song as soon as those opening chords began. And they did. As soon as those opening notes played, it was like the whole audience went and just leant in like, I don't know this song and I know Heather's, so what's going on? So I was just stood there during Lifeboat really working myself up into a bit of a panic, and I just remember Jamie Moscato's voice in my ear saying, Carrie, you need to breathe. Because clearly I'd just been like, stood there holding my breath for so long. I will also say before I start this reaction video that one of my favourite things was getting the timing perfect at the beginning, because the music used to come in quite a long time before I started singing. So if me and Jamie managed to time out the lines perfectly, I would say my final line just before I began without any awkward pause. Let's see if I manage to do it in this one. Also, again, I will point out that this bootleg is actually from our final performance. So that is why the audience throughout the whole bootleg is like, woo, at pretty much everything. And it's also why everyone is so emotional throughout the whole show. Okay, let's do this.
Martha was right about it.
Now, let's have a real conversation.
Martha was right, and I broke her heart.
Let's talk about Heather Duke.
No, let's talk about you. You are a drug. You are a poison pill. I've got to keep this habit now, or else I never will.
Again, Mike is like between my eyebrows. I don't know why this was. If it was up to me, it would have been in my hairline, but I never argue when someone tells me that I need to do something, so I'm like, okay, cool. But also, it had to, again, have wire in it, because I was on stage for so long, sweating my arse off, that mic tape just wouldn't stick. it just wouldn't stick, and it'd just be like flapping about in the breeze for the whole show. So they ended up just wiring it so that it stayed down. I don't think anyone really notices it when you're sat like far away, but when you see a bootleg and they're like zooming in, you're like, that mic looks really dodgy.
I love the rush when you would hold me close, but you will not be satisfied until I overdose. This is it, hit the break, I am finally away. Maybe let me go. You need help, I can't write, I do not qualify. This troubled scene is getting clean. I say no.
I was so ill by the final night. I had full-blown viral tonsillitis that I just couldn't shake because I couldn't have long enough off the show in order to rest. Cover Veronica was Olivia Moore, who was also cover Heather McNamara. So if me and Sophie went off, I guess the show would have been cancelled? I don't know. Luckily, we never got to that point. There comes a certain amount of pressure from myself, partly, from the audience, by no fault of their own, because if someone's name is on the poster, you expect that person to be in the show, especially if they don't have any scheduled holidays. But also from higher up, who want the person whose name is on the poster, who they are paying to be their leading lady, to be in the show. So for many reasons, I could never have long enough off the show in order to fully recover and be at my A game. If it had been up to me, I would have been off for as long as it took to get better and be back on form. So by the time I got to our 20th week, I was finished. My body was just wrecked in more ways than one. That being said, listening back to this, I don't sound as horrendous as I did in my own head. In my own head, I sounded like a bag of cats being swung against a wall. But listening back to this, that's not what I'm hearing from an audience perspective, which is great.
Who else is no, don't say a word. You speak and I'll give in. You'll twist the truth again, drill deep down beneath my skin. You say you change, and I believe in you. But you're still using me to justify what you do. This is it, keep going, call it out.
So at this point, when I was directly behind Jamie and he had to turn upstage away from the audience, he'd always give me like a little wink, just a little moment of encouragement when I was ill and struggling, which would always really get me through, because obviously JD is such a terrifying character and he's like really temperamental and psychotic, and Jamie was scarily good at playing that. It was amazing being on stage with Jamie because he was so good at playing JD. So it was lovely when he gave me that moment of him being my friend Jamie. When you are halfway through a song as big as I Say No and you are feeling like I was feeling in that moment where I was ill, I was just exhausted, and I was also really emotional because Heather's was coming to an end. And not only was Heather's coming to an end, but I also felt like I wasn't finishing it on the high that I should have been finishing it because I was so ill. Those moments are so needed and so appreciated. I used to find this next bit so hard. So much of the song up until now has been really ballsy and Veronica being like, do you know what? I call the shots now. It's so strong and powerful, and I feel like this moment is where obviously the song itself sort of pulls back in this moment as well, so it's a bit more tender and just quieter and softer, but the emotion in this song is so heightened. One of those if you don't laugh you'll cry sort of moments, where Veronica's like, if I don't just yell at you and get all of this out, I am gonna crumble. And when she brings it back and just talks to him like, this is so like, almost like I'm disappointed. Like, blame your childhood, blame your dad, you can blame anything else, but ultimately this is your choice, and I hate that this is your choice because you could be such a good person. It used to get me every time, and I used to always have to give myself, as me, as Carrie, I used to have to give myself a stern talking to, because as soon as I start crying when I sing, my throat closes up and I can't sing anymore. And I stopped being able to actually get any notes out. But that was particularly difficult on this night because I knew that this was going to be the last time. This was the last performance. So it had that extra layer of sadness to it.
Blame your childhood, blame your dad, blame the life you never had.
There it is.
But hurting people, that's your choice in life. 'Cause I believe that love will win, and hate will earn you nothing in the end. This is the end.
I love you!
You can actually see how red my nose is from where I'm like on the verge of breaking down into tears.
This is it. I won't cry, sorry now. I will try to pay back all the time. Start again, somewhere new, far from cold eyes like you. So goodbye, just I say no.
This spot on the stage, I went to it earlier at the beginning, and being at that spot and looking out as well, my spotlight would pick up like the first 3 rows. So anyone in front of me at that point, if they were like emotional, that was me finished. If I could see them getting upset or them crying, I would just have to direct everything to the dress circle, because this song would always have me like on the verge of tears myself. So if I saw anyone else going, I just couldn't look at them. Because if it's just me, I can hold it together. Like, I am capable of holding it together. But as soon as I see someone else crying, I am done. That is me finished. I am a mess. The amount of times I used to be like, I say no, and see someone crying and be like, no, I say no to you, ma'am. No. Vocal cords for that evening. Bye, see ya. My vocal cords were like, do you know what? We say no. We say no. Done. I wish by the end of the run I had been healthier than I was. Leading a company for the first time was amazing. It was challenging, especially with a show that already has a pre-existing, really hardcore fan base. That was quite daunting. Did get to me at times, definitely. There were times when I just felt like I wasn't playing the Veronica that everyone expected, because I look so different, I sound different, I was making different choices. But ultimately, I don't think I'd change anything, because the time that I had on the show was, what's the word? It was indescribable. Like, it was just unreal. And also the friends that I made on the show as well, like the fact that Sophie and Becky have become 2 of my closest friends. And even though I look back on that time and go, oh my God, that was such a huge challenge, I also look back at my Heather's vlogs and just look at how much we were laughing, even though we were all knackered. And a lot of us got ill towards the last couple weeks of the Haymarket run. We were still just having such a good time. And so much of that is down to the creative team, like Larry, Kevin, Andy, Kristen, a brilliant creative team to work with. They were just bonkers in the best way. So there we go. There's my little reaction to I Say No, and I guess Heather's in general. Bye.